cabin air has settled into a stillness that feels heavier than the flight itself. A suspended silence where the only sound is the cooling of engines and the soft, rhythmic ping of the seatbelt sign extinguishing. It is that precise moment between motion and arrival where the body still hums with the vibration of travel. Yet the world outside the oval window has ceased to rush by. Condensation clings to the plexiglass, fracturing the amber lights of the tarmac into 1,000 tiny, glowing stars. I do not move immediately. I let the sensation of stopping wash over me, feeling the gravity return to my limbs, anchoring me back to the earth after hours of floating in the upper atmosphere. The air circulating through the vents has shifted. It no longer smells of recycled oxygen and coffee, but carries a faint, distinct trace of damp earth and evening mist. Rising from the seat feels like unfolding a map that has been creased for too long. My muscles stretch, grateful for the vertical space, and I reach for the handle of my carry-on. The latch gives a satisfying mechanical click, and the weight of the bag settles into my grip. It is a grounding weight, a reminder that I am here, physically present, about to step into the ancient heart of Tuscany. Moving down the aisle, the carpet is worn and soft beneath the soles of my shoes, absorbing each step, keeping the atmosphere hushed and reverent. The crew offers quiet nods, their voices low and melodic, blending with the gentle shuffle of other passengers. We are a collective stream of tired travelers, moving slowly toward the open door. Crossing the threshold from the plane to the jet bridge is a sensory shift. The temperature drops, crisp and cool, greeting my skin with the promise of an Italian autumn. The floor here changes from soft carpet to a ribbed, industrial rubber that makes a hollow, echoing sound underfoot. The walls are metal and glass, sloping gently downward, guiding us away from the machine and toward the city. My suitcase wheels begin their song, a low, steady rumble that vibrates up through the handle and into my palm. It is a continuous, reassuring purr that accompanies me as the corridor widens, spilling us out into the terminal. Here begins the long, rhythmic journey through the halls of the airport, a transition space that exists outside of time. The lighting is soft, recessed into high ceilings, casting long, pale reflections on the polished terrazzo floor. The tiles are vast, speckled with flecks of gray and white, cool and smooth. My shoes make a sharp, clean sound here, a rhythmic clack, clack, clack that echoes slightly in the open space. I match my breathing to this cadence. In for 3 steps, out for 3 steps. The hallway stretches out, a long ribbon of light and stone. There is no need to rush. The signs above are simple, glowing white icons on dark backgrounds, pointing the way forward. I let my eyes soften, blurring the edges of the concourse, focusing only on the 10 feet of suitcase rolls effortlessly here, the wheels gliding over the polished surface with barely a whisper. Occasionally, the texture changes. The terrazzo gives way to a section of short, tight-woven carpet in a deep navy blue. The sound of my steps instantly dampens, becoming a muted thud, and the resistance on the wheels increases slightly. I feel the drag in my wrist, a gentle pull that requires just a little more intention to maintain the pace. Then the carpet ends, and the sharp clarity of the tile returns. Ahead, a moving walkway stretches for what looks like 100 yards. I step onto the metal grate at the start, feeling the slight lurch of acceleration as the belt takes my weight. I stand still for a moment, letting the machine carry me. The handrail is a thick, black rubber loop, moving in sync with the floor. I rest my hand on it, feeling the cool, slightly tacky texture, the subtle vibration of the motor running beneath the floor plates. The sound here is a hypnotic, mechanical drone, a low-frequency hum that seems to massage the mind into a state of blank tranquility. To my left, large windows look out over the airfield, but the night has turned the glass into mirrors. I see only the reflection of the empty hallway, the ghost of my own silhouette gliding past, and the rhythmic flash of runway lights in the distance. I begin to walk while on the moving belt, compounding my speed. The sensation is dreamlike, covering ground with unnatural ease. My steps feel light, buoyant. The rubber belt underfoot has a slight give, softer than the tile, absorbing the impact. The groove of the belt sings against the wheels of my luggage, a high-pitched zipping sound that remains constant and steady. At the end of the walkway, I anticipate the transition. The metal teeth of the comb plate approach, and I step off with a practiced stride, the wheels of my bag bumping gently, thump-thump, as they cross the threshold back onto solid ground. The rhythm resumes. Left foot, right foot, the weight of the bag swinging like a pendulum. The terminal is quiet. It is late, and the bustle of the day has evaporated, leaving behind a peaceful, cavernous space where solitary footsteps are the dominant sound. I approach a set of stairs, but choose the long, sloping ramp that winds down toward the lower level. The floor here is a different texture, a non-slip surface with a gritty, sandpaper-like finish to ensure traction. It creates a scuffling sound, a hushed friction with every step. I hold the bag close to my leg to prevent it from rolling too fast, feeling the gravity pull it downward, guiding me deeper into the building. The air grows slightly warmer as I descend, the scent of espresso becoming stronger, drifting from a closed cafe on the arrivals level. The baggage claim area is a vast landscape of stainless steel and linoleum. The carousels are mostly still, looking like dormant metal serpents. One is active, the rubber slats sliding over one another with with a rhythmic clacking sound, followed by the soft buzzer that announces a new wave of luggage. I bypass this, moving through the green channel, the customs officers barely looking up from their monitors, a silent nod granting me passage, the sliding glass doors at the exit part with a pneumatic hush, and suddenly the soundscape shifts entirely. I step out of the climate-controlled bubble and into the Florentine night. The air is startlingly fresh, carrying the mineral scent of old stone and the damp, organic smell of the Arno River, invisible in the dark, but close. The humidity embraces me, softening the crisp edges of the airport air. A line of white taxis waits by the curb, their engines idling in a low, collective murmur. I move toward the first one, the driver already stepping out to assist. He is an older man, his movements efficient and silent. He takes my bag, lifting it with ease, and places it in the trunk. The lid closes with a solid, muffled thud, sealing my belongings away. I slide into the backseat, the upholstery cool leather that creaks softly as I settle in. The door closes, and the world is instantly dampened. The sounds of the airport, the announcements, the sliding doors, the distant chatter are cut off, replaced by the intimate quiet of the car's interior. As the car pulls away, I sink deeper into the seat, letting the headrest catch the weight of my neck. We merge onto the highway, the tires humming a smooth, high note against the asphalt. Streetlights flicker past in a rhythmic cadence, amber pulses of light that wash over the interior of the car and then vanish. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the motion soothe me. The suspension of the car rocks gently, a cradle in motion. Soon, the smooth asphalt changes. We are leaving the modern periphery and entering the historic center. The sound of the tires shifts from a hum to a textured rumble as we hit the first cobblestones. This is the sound of Florence. It is a deep, vibrating purr that resonates through the chassis of the car. It is not jarring, but steady, a tactile reminder of the centuries of history paved beneath us. We navigate narrower streets, the car slowing down. Through the window, the city is a series of shadows and warm light. The buildings rise high on either side, stone facades seemingly touching the sky, their windows shuttered tight against the night. We pass under an archway, the sound of the engine echoing briefly against the stone walls before dampening again in the open square beyond. The driver navigates the labyrinthine streets with practiced ease, turning wheels hand over hand. The car gliding around corners where the sidewalks are barely wide enough for a single person. There are no crowds now. The tourists have vanished. The locals are asleep. The city feels like a private room, vast and empty, waiting just for me. We pass a small piazza where a fountain trickles quietly. The sound of falling water audible even through the glass for a fleeting second before we move on. The car comes to a halt on a narrow street, paved with large, uneven flagstones. The engine cuts out, and silence rushes in to fill the space. It is a profound silence, heavy with the weight of stone and time. I step out, the air cooler now, settled deep between the buildings. The driver places my bag on the stones. A different sound here, a solid clack against the history of the street. He nods, a silent farewell, and drives off, his taillights disappearing around a bend, leaving me standing alone in front of a heavy wooden door. The door is massive, timber darkened by hundreds of years of weather and varnish, studded with iron bolts. I retrieve the key instructions I memorized. A small brass keypad is hidden discreetly behind a planter. I enter the code. A heavy mechanical latch releases from inside, thunk, a sound that feels like unlocking a fortress. I push the wood. It is heavy, requiring my shoulder to budget. It swings open on silent, well-oiled hinges, revealing a small, dimly lit vestibule. Inside, the air is still, and smells of beeswax and old paper. The floor is black and white marble, worn into soft depressions in the center of each tile by generations of footsteps. I lift my suitcase now, carrying it rather than rolling it, respecting the silence of the sleeping building. The stairs ahead are stone, the railing a smooth, cool iron that fits perfectly in the palm of my hand. I ascend slowly. One step, pause, 2 steps, pause. There is no elevator, only this slow, deliberate climb. My breathing regulates to the effort, the physical exertion grounding me further. The stone steps are cool, even through the soles of my shoes. On the 2nd floor, I find the door to the apartment. It is lighter, painted a soft cream. The key is a physical one this time, a long, skeleton-style key that feels heavy and significant. I slide it into the keyhole. It engages the tumblers with a series of precise clicks, metal moving against metal. I turn it, feeling the resistance, then the release. The door opens. The apartment is a sanctuary of shadows. I do not turn on the main lights. The illumination from the street lamps outside filters through the slats of the wooden shutters, casting stripes of amber light across the terracotta floor. I set my bag down near the entrance. I do not unpack. That is a task for the daylight. For now, the only goal is to shed the layers of travel. I move to the bathroom, the tiles cool and smooth. I turn the tap, the water rushing out clear and cold. I cup my hands, splashing my face, washing away the recycled air of the plane, the fatigue of the transit. The water is shocking at first, then incredibly soothing. I dry my face with a towel that is thick and rough, smelling of lavender and sun. Moving into the bedroom, the space is dominated by a large bed with a wrought iron frame. The linens are white, glowing faintly in the semi-darkness. I pull back the duvet. It has a weight to it, a heaviness that promises comfort. The sheets beneath are crisp, tight, and cool to the touch. I sit on the edge of the mattress, untying my shoes. One by one, I slip them off, placing them quietly on the floor. My feet, finally free, sink into a small, plush rug by the bedside. I remove my outer layers, the movements slow and heavy, my body acknowledging that the journey is over. There is a sense of completion in the simple act of folding my clothes and placing them on the chair. I slide between the sheets. They are wonderfully cold against my skin, smooth and clean. The mattress rises to meet me, firm and supportive. I pull the heavy duvet up to my chin, the weight of it pressing me down, anchoring me into the bed. I lie on my back, staring up at the ceiling, which is lost in the shadows above. The room is silent, save for the very faint, very distant sound of a church bell tolling the hour, deep and resonant. My internal clock is slowly aligning with the rhythm of this city. I think briefly of the Duomo, standing silent and majestic just a few streets away, waiting for the dawn. I imagine the marble facade, cool and gray in the night, anticipating the first touch of the sun. But the image is soft, fading at the edges. My eyes grow heavy, the lids fluttering closed. The tension in my shoulders dissolves into the mattress. The rhythm of the train, the plane, the taxi, it all fades into a singular, steady heartbeat. I am here. I let the breath leave my lungs in a long, slow exhale, surrendering the final thought of the day to the quiet dark. The air above the Arno is heavy with the specific, wet cold of a river at dawn. It is a gray hour, the suspended moment before the sun crests the eastern hills to burn the mist off the water. I stand at the center of the pont, San Nicolo. The metal railing is beaded with dew, cold enough to feel through the fabric of my gloves. Below, the river is a moving sheet of slate, opaque and muscular, pushing west toward the sea. There is a sound here that anchors the morning. It is the white noise of the weir, the pesquea, a man-made shelf of stone stretching across the width of the river. The water approaches the drop in a smooth, glassy silence, then shatters as it falls. It is a continuous, rushing exhale. The sound creates a curtain of acoustic static, washing away the distant hum of delivery trucks on the ring road, and the early clatter of shutters opening in the city center. I listen to this constant friction of water against stone. It is the sound of the city breathing in its sleep. The foam gathers in pale, swirling eddies at the base of the weir, turning slowly before being caught by the current and carried downstream. Turning my back to the water, I face the southern bank. The neighborhood of San Nicolo sits, huddled under the steep rise of the hills. The buildings are painted in shades of ochre and burnt sienna, but in this low light, they appear as muted blocks of shadow. The tower of the city gate, the Porta San Nicolo, rises like a stone sentinel, its battlements cut sharply against the brightening sky. I leave the bridge. The transition from the open river to the narrow streets is immediate. The air becomes stiller, smelling of damp plaster and espresso grounds from a bar that has just unlocked its doors. My boots strike the pavement with a rhythmic, hollow tactility. I am looking for the start of an ancient path, away out of the basin and up into the green silence above the city. The entrance to the Via dell'Arta Canina is unassuming, a narrow mouth of stone tucked away from the main road. It begins as a paved street, but quickly sheds its urban skin to become something older. The name implies a steep slope, a path fit for a dog scramble. I begin the climb. This is a lane of solitude. High stone walls rise on either side, blocking the view of the city, turning the path into a roofless tunnel, open only to the sky. The walls are built of irregular sandstone blocks, fitted together centuries ago, and now softened by time. Moss grows thick in the crevices, a velvet mortar of deep, vibrant green. The grade steepens. My pace slows, adjusting to the angle of the earth. For the next long while, there is only the act of walking. The sensory input narrows down to the immediate, the repetitive, and the rhythmic. The ground beneath my feet is a patchwork of old paving stones and packed earth. The stones are smooth, polished by generations of travelers, their edges rounded and worn. Some are cracked, with tiny shoots of grass growing in the fissures. I watch the placement of my boots. Left, right. The sound of the step changes depending on the surface. On the flat stone, it is a solid thud. On the patches of gravel, it is a dry crunch. The walls guide me. They are textured maps of weather and season. Near the ground, the stone is dark, stained by the damp rising from the earth. Higher up, it bleaches to a pale biscuit color where the sun hits it during the day. Capers grow from the stone high above my head, their trailing vines swaying slightly in a breeze I cannot feel down here. I settle into a cadence. There is no need to look for landmarks. The path allows for no deviation. It is a singular channel moving upward. My breath becomes audible, a soft rhythm syncing with the movement of my legs. In, out, step, step. The light changes as I climb. Down by the river, it was blue and gray. Here, the tops of the olive trees that peek over the high walls are catching the first true gold of the morning. I cannot see the trunks of the trees, only their silver-green canopies spilling over the masonry like frozen waterfalls. Occasionally, a single olive drops onto the path, a small, dark punctuation mark on the pale stones. There are no cars here, no voices. The only sound is the natural friction of the climb. The brush of my coat against the wall when the path narrows. The sound of a bird shifting its weight in the dry leaves of an overhead branch. The silence is not empty. It is dense and physical. It feels like a weight being lifted off the shoulders, replaced by the buoyancy of the morning air. I focus on the gradient. The muscles in my calves stretch and contract. The effort generates a warmth that spreads from the center of my chest out to my fingertips. It is a good heat, the honest heat of motion. The path curves gently to the left, then corrects to the right, a serpentine line etched into the hillside. Above the wall to my right, the sky has shifted from pearl to a clear, hard azure. The separation between the man-made stone of the wall and the organic chaos of the olive branches is distinct, a sharp line where the geometry of the city meets the wildness of the hills. I stop for a moment, not to rest, but to exist in the stillness. I place a hand on the wall. The stone is cold, rough against my palm. I can feel the grain of the sandstone, the tiny imperfections that make it real. I close my eyes. The world reduces to the smell of damp soil, the coolness of the shadow, and the faint, rhythmic chirping of a cricket hidden somewhere in the ivy. Resuming the walk, the rhythm returns instantly. The body remembers the pace. The monotony of the walls becomes hypnotic. Stone moss sky. Stone moss sky. It is a visual mantra. There is no destination in my mind, only the process of ascending. The path levels out briefly, giving the legs a respite before pitching upward again. A lizard darts across the stones, a flash of green lightning that freezes on the vertical surface of the wall, blending into a patch of ivy. I pass it without breaking stride. The path begins to descend. The walls lower slightly, allowing glimpses of terracotta roofs and cypress trees in the gardens beyond. The texture of the ground changes again, becoming more paved, more intentional. The descent is easier, gravity assisting the forward motion. I let the momentum carry me down, the rhythm of my steps accelerating slightly, lighter now. The tunnel of the Via dell'Arta Canina widens and spills me out near the Porta San Miniato. Here, I find the first specific point of the day's search. I am looking for a section of masonry known to locals as the dampening wall. It is not marked on tourist maps. It is simply a quirk of architecture and physics, located where the heavy fortification of the city gate meets the retaining wall of the garden above. I move toward the shadow of the gate. The brickwork here is massive, built to withstand sieges, but my interest is in the acoustic shadow it creates. I step into the corner where the two walls meet at an obtuse angle. The change is instantaneous. One moment, there is the ambient sound of the morning, a distant church bell, the wind in the trees, the scuff of my own boots. The next moment, silence. It is as if someone has placed a heavy wool blanket over my head, the geometry of the stone traps, and cancels the sound waves. I stand perfectly still. The silence is thick, pressing against the ears. I scuff my foot on the ground. The sound is flat, dead, with no echo, no reverberation. It travels nowhere. I lean my back against the dampening wall. The stone sucks the vibration out of the air. It is a vacuum of sensory input, a place where the city's voice cannot reach. I take a breath, and even the sound of the inhalation seems muted, absorbed by the hungry masonry. It is a profound, isolating peace. I linger here, letting the silence reset my hearing, washing away the static of the weir I heard earlier. Pushing off the wall, I step back into the street, and the world rushes back in the chirp of a scooter, the rustle of leaves, volume restored. I turn west, following the line of the river, but one street removed, entering the Via de Bardi. This is one of the oldest streets in the Oltrarno, a canyon of nobility and history. The palaces here are tall and severe, their facades looming over the narrow roadway, blocking out the sun that has now fully risen. The light down here is indirect, reflected off the upper windows of the facing buildings. It gives the street a submerged, aquatic feeling. I am looking for the Devil's Knocker. The street curves, following the old bank of the river. The buildings are fortresses disguised as homes. The ground floors are clad in rusticated stone huge, rough-hewn blocks that speak of defense and impenetrability. The windows are high and barred with iron grills. I walk slowly, scanning the heavy wooden doors. There are many knockers here, brass lions polished to a shine by waiting hands, iron rings simple and functional. But I am looking for something distinct. I find it on a door that looks like it has not opened in a generation. The wood is dark oak, almost black, scarred by centuries of rain and street grit. The grain is raised and deeply furrowed. The knocker is positioned high on the central stile. It is made of wrought iron, black and pitted. It is not a simple ring. It is shaped into a grotesque face, a mouth open in a silent scream, holding the heavy ring between its teeth. The iron has a dull, matte finish, absorbing the dim light of the street. I do not touch it. I only observe. The craftsmanship is terrified and terrifying. The eyes of the iron face are hollow sockets. The brow is furrowed in eternal exertion. It is a detail easily missed, a small piece of nightmares forged in fire and bolted to a rich man's door. The sub-goals of the morning are complete. The weir, the wall, the knocker. Sensory points on a map of feeling. I continue walking down Via de Bardi, The street widens as it approaches the Ponte Vecchio. The solitude of the Urta Canina is gone, replaced by the beginning of the day's true activity. Shopkeepers are rolling up metal shutters with a clatter that echoes off the canyon walls. A smell of baking bread drifts from a side alley, warm and yeasty, mixing with the cool river air. I reach a small piazza that opens up to the riverbank. The sun has cleared the rooftops now. The light is no longer gray or tentative. It is absolute and brilliant. It strikes the surface of the Arno, turning the slate water into a blinding ribbon of silver. Across the water, the city of Florence is waking up, but I stay on this side, in the Oltrarno. I find a low stone bench facing the water. The stone is still cool, holding the memory of the night. I sit. The rush of the weir is far behind me now, a memory of white noise. The silence of the dampening wall is a memory of pressure. The face of the iron knocker is a memory of shadow. Here, the light is the only thing that matters. I watch it crawl down the facade of the buildings on the opposite bank. It touches the tiles of the roof first, turning them a bright, dusty orange. Then it slides down the plaster walls, revealing the colors layer by layer: yellow, cream, pink. A rower passes on the river, the scull cutting a clean, dark line through the silver water. The oars dip and rise, a metronome keeping time with the morning. I let the tension in my shoulders drop. The list of things to find is empty. There is only the sitting and the watching and the steady, warming weight of the sun on the back of my hands. The river moves, the light holds, and the day simply begins. The air in the pre-dawn hours holds a specific kind of weight, a heavy, damp stillness that presses against the skin like a cold sheet. Florence is not yet awake. The streets are gray canyons, the sky above a bruised indigo that suggests the night is reluctant to leave. I have found my place on Via dello Studio, a narrow tributary that feeds directly into the heart of the city's religious center. Here, the architecture offers a seat. The Panch di Via are stone benches built directly into the base of the palazzos, remnants of a time when the street was a living room. I settle onto the slab of Pietra Serena. The stone sucks the warmth from my denim immediately. A grounding, sharp sensation that travels up through my legs. It is cold, solid, and unforgiving. To my left, the street opens up. The massive flank of the cathedral, Santa Maria del Fiore, walls off the world. From this angle, sitting low against the palazzo wall, the Duomo is not a monument, but a landscape. It occupies the entire field of vision, a mountain of marble that seems to generate its own gravity. I am here to watch the waking. For a long time, there is only the gray. The marble stripes of the cathedral are muted, the white indistinguishable from the green, both swallowed by the flat, pre-dawn light. It is quiet enough to hear the hum of a street lamp flickering out at the far end of the piazza. Then the shift begins. It is not a sudden burst of sun, but a gradual dilution of the shadows. High above, on the very tip of the great dome, the copper ball and the cross catch the first unseen ray from over the eastern hills. They glow suddenly, a spark of gold suspended in the gloom. The light begins its slow, viscous descent. It crawls down the ribs of the terracotta tiles, turning the dull clay into a vibrant, burning orange. I lean back against the rough rustication of the wall behind me. My breath plumes out, a white ghost that vanishes in seconds. The light hits the marble facade. This is the moment the stone changes. The white Carrara marble, previously the color of old bone, brightens to the shade of fresh cream. Next to it, the green serpentine from Prado deepens, shedding its gray coat to reveal a rich, dark forest verdancy. And the pink, the subtle Maremma pink that often gets lost in photographs, warms up, looking like flushed skin against the cold stone. It is a slow, hydraulic motion. The line of sunlight descends inch by inch, illuminating a statue in a niche, then a twisted pillar, then the geometric flowers inlaid in the wall. The vast structure is being painted into existence, layer by layer, from the heavens down to the street. I stand. The stone bench has done its work, chilling me enough that movement feels necessary. My boots make a scuffing sound on the pavement as I move away from the shelter of Via dello Studio and step into the Piazza del Duomo proper. The space is immense. Without the crowds of the afternoon, the emptiness feels amplified. A single delivery van idles 300 yards away, its engine a soft purr that barely reaches me. I drift toward the gap. There is a specific channel of air that exists between the cathedral's main body and the soaring verticality of Giotto's bell tower. They stand close, separated by a slice of sky and pavement. I position myself directly in this corridor. The wind is always stronger here, funneled by the millions of tons of stone on either side. It brushes past my ears, carrying the scent of damp dust and old incense. I check the watch on my wrist. The second hand sweeps past the 12. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. High above, inside the campanile, the mechanism engages. I hear the click, a mechanical clearing of the throat before the strike. The first bell hits. It is not just a sound, it is a concussion. The bronze resonance falls from the tower like a heavy curtain. Because I am standing in the gap, the sound waves bounce between the cathedral wall and the tower, amplifying, folding in on themselves. Bong. The vibration travels through the soles of my shoes. I feel it in the center of my chest, a physical thrumming that matches the beat of my heart. Bong. The tone is dark, complex, filled with lower frequencies that you feel more than you hear. It is the voice of the city clearing its throat. Pigeons launch from the ledges above. A sudden explosion of gray wings clapping against the air. Startled by the routine they witness every morning. Bonk. I close my eyes. The sound washes over me, drowning out the distant delivery van, the wind, the sound of my own breathing. It is total, absolute immersion in the bronze. Bonk. 4. Bonk. 5. Bonk. 6. Bonk. 7. The final strike hangs in the air. It does not end abruptly. The hum decays slowly. A long, tapering tail of sound that fades into the stone, vibrating in the atmosphere for 10, 20, 30 seconds after the hammer has stopped. I listen until the very last ghost of the note has evaporated, leaving the silence louder than it was before. The wind picks up again, rushing through the gap, cooling my face. I turn away from the tower, letting the bells settle in my memory. I begin to walk. This is not a walk of destination. It is a walk of rhythm. I turn my back on the open expanse of the piazza and head south, toward the tighter, darker streets of the medieval quarter. The transition is immediate. The expansive sky is cut off, replaced by the overhanging eaves of tall, fortress-like houses. My pace settles into a slow, hydraulic cadence. Left foot, right foot. The pavement here is uneven. Large slabs of gray stone that have shifted over centuries, creating a topography of small ridges and valleys. I have to watch the ground, focusing on the placement of each step. Heel strikes stone. The sound is a dull clack, distinct and solitary. The toe rolls forward. Weight transfers. The other foot lifts. There is a meditative quality to navigating this surface. It requires just enough attention to keep the mind from wandering, but not enough to cause stress. It is a loop of sensation. The hardness of the ground, the slight give of the rubber sole, the cool air brushing against my hands. The street curves gently. I pass doorways that are shut tight, heavy wood reinforced with iron studs. There are no lights on in the windows above. The city is a dormant creature, its breathing slow and shallow. I continue. One block, then another. The rhythm of walking takes over. The visual inputs blur into a stream of gray and brown textures. Rough brick, smooth plaster, chipped stone. The repetition is soothing. I am not looking for landmarks. I am not reading street signs. I am simply moving mass through space. A light rain begins to fall, or perhaps it is just the heavy mist condensing. The stones underfoot turn slick, gleaming with a dull, oily sheen. The sound of my footsteps changes, becoming softer. A wet patter rather than a dry clack. I keep walking. The air here smells different than in the open square. It smells of damp mortar, of cellars, of centuries of rain trapped in porous rock. It is a mineral scent, clean but heavy. I pass a small intersection, barely wider than a hallway, and continue straight. The walls on either side seem to lean in. The sky is just a ribbon of pale light far above. I am walking at the bottom of a ravine. My hands are in my pockets, warmth contained against my palms. My shoulders drop, the tension of the early morning vigil releasing with the movement. There is nothing to do but put one foot in front of the other. Step, step, step. The monotony is the point. It clears the slate. The grandeur of the Duomo, the gold of the sunrise, the power of the bells, all of that is behind me now. Here, there is only the gray tunnel of the street and the rhythm of propulsion. I listen to the sound of my own breath, in filling the lungs with the cool, damp air, out a soft rush escaping into the narrow street. In, out, it matches the beat of the boots on the wet stone. A cat sits in a doorway, watching me pass. It does not move, does not blink. We acknowledge each other, two silent travelers in the quiet morning. And then I am past it, leaving it behind in the gloom. I walk until the rhythm feels like it has always been there, until the act of walking feels like the only thing that is real. The world shrinks down to the immediate circle of perception. The 3 feet of ground ahead of me, the sensation of the coat settling on my shoulders, the metronome of my stride. Gradually, the texture of the street changes again. The large, irregular slabs give way to smaller, more uniform cobbles. The acoustic landscape shifts. I have arrived at Via dei Magazzini. This is a short street, barely a connector between the larger thoroughfares, but it holds a secret. The buildings here are incredibly tall, and the street exceptionally narrow, creating a perfect acoustic box. It is known to locals as a place where sound does not escape. It magnifies. I stop walking. The silence here is different. It is pressurized. I take a step, deliberately scuffing my heel. Scuff-uff-uff. The sound snaps back at me instantly, sharp and clear. It bounces off the left wall, hits the right, and returns to my ears with a brightness that is startling. I stand in the center of the alleyway. A window opens somewhere 3 stories up. The latch clicking sounds like a pistol shot. Click-ick. A woman's voice drifts down, speaking to someone inside the apartment. She is whispering, but down here, it sounds as if she is standing right next to my ear. I can hear the sibilance of her S, the breathy intake of air between words. The architecture acts as a funnel, capturing every sonic fragment and pouring it down into the street. I wait. A delivery cart is being pushed over the cobbles 2 streets away. In any other place, it would be inaudible. Here, it sounds like distant thunder, a rolling, grumbling bass note that vibrates in the air. This is the echo chamber of Dante's Quarter. It amplifies the intimacy of the city. It turns the private sounds of waking up, the running water in a pipe, the clink of a spoon against a ceramic cup, the rustle of a shutter, into a public performance. I lean my shoulder against the wall of the building, known as the Badia Fiorentina. The stone is rough, the mortar crumbly under my jacket. I am a listener in the theater of the morning. The light is filtering down now, finally reaching the bottom of this deep alley. It touches the wet cobbles, turning them from black to silver. The day is officially beginning. The silence is breaking, not with a crash, but with 1,000 tiny, amplified details. I stay there, pressed against the ancient stone, letting the magnified sounds of the waking city wash over me, listening to the world assemble itself, one echo at a time. The coolness of the wall seeps through my layers, a gentle reminder to rest, to stop, to let the morning drift. The first light of the morning does not strike the city all at once. It arrives in hesitation, a pale, diluted gold that tests the edges of the rooftops before committing to the streets below. From the window, the air feels cool, carrying that specific river damp scent that clings to the Arno before the heat of the day burns it off. I dress in silence. The fabric of my shirt is crisp, settling against my skin with a comforting weight. My shoes are waiting by the door, laces loose, ready for the cobblestones. There is no rush. The itinerary today is not a list of demands, but a series of invitations. Leaving the apartment, the stairwell is a vertical tunnel of quiet. My footsteps echo softly against the stone treads, a rhythmic descent into the waking world. The heavy timber door at the street level requires a firm hand. The iron latch is cold, the metal smooth from centuries of palms pressing against it. I lift the bar, feel the mechanism give way with a solid clunk, and step out into the gray-blue morning. The destination is the Piazza Ognissanti, but the path there follows the river. To my left, the water is a flat, opaque sheet, reflecting the sky in muted tones of slate and pearl. The traffic is sparse, a lone delivery van, a cyclist moving with silent purpose. I reach the piazza. It is a wide, open space that feels larger in this emptiness. The church of San Salvatore in Ognissanti stands waiting, its Baroque facade catching the first true rays of the sun. The stone is not uniform. It is a living geology, a map of time compressed into architecture. I approach the steps. They are broad and shallow, inviting a slow ascent. But I do not go in yet. I linger at the base, my attention drawn to the texture of the materials. The prompt for today is to find the calcite veins, the natural scars running through the marble. Crouching slightly, I inspect the lower plinth of the facade. The stone here is cool to the touch. I run a finger along a seam where two blocks join. The marble is not white. It is a landscape of cream and gray, speckled with the memory of the earth. There, a vein of calcite runs diagonally across the block. It is crystalline, slightly translucent, catching the light differently than the surrounding stone. It looks like a frozen stream, a jagged line of purity trapped in the rock. I trace it with my eyes, following its path from the bottom edge, up through the center, until it disappears into the mortar of the next layer. It is a detail easily missed. Most would look at the saints, the heavy cornice, the grand crest at the top. But the quiet beauty is here, at knee height, in the geological accident of the material. I stand and step back, letting the whole facade come into view again, but now aware of the intricate map drawn upon its skin. The sun has climbed higher, warming the stone, turning the cream to honey. I turn away from the river now, letting the open space of the piazza drift behind me. The transition is gradual. The sound of the water fades, replaced by the enclosed acoustics of the narrow streets. I begin the walk toward the north, toward the San Marco district. This is not a direct line. It is a meandering path through the veins of the city. My pace settles into a steady, hypnotic rhythm. Left foot, right foot. The sound of my soles on the Pietrus arena is a dull, consistent tap. The pavement here is uneven. The great slabs of gray stone worn smooth in the center and rough at the edges. I watch the ground moving beneath me. The pattern of the stones is irregular, a mosaic of rectangles and trapezoids fitted together with ancient precision. The air in these side streets is still holding the night's chill. It pools in the doorways and lingers under the eaves. I walk through pockets of shadow and sudden bands of sunlight. The temperature creates a physical rhythm to match my stride. Cool, warm, cool, warm. I pass a row of shuttered shops. The metal grates are pulled down, locked tight. There is no commerce yet, only the anticipation of it. A cat sits on a high ledge, watching me pass with green, unblinking eyes. It does not move. I do not stop. We are merely two distinct points of life in a landscape of stone. The street widens, then narrows again. I cross a small intersection. There are no cars here, only the geometry of the buildings rising up on either side. Walls of stucco, painted in fading shades of ochre and terracotta, peel in slow motion. I focus on a patch of wall to my right. The plaster has cracked, revealing the rough brick underneath. It looks like a wound that has healed over, rough and textured. I keep walking. There is a meditative quality to this movement. The mind empties of specific thoughts and fills with the immediate sensory input of the walk, the sensation of the sock against the heel, the swing of the arms, the way the breath regulates itself to the cadence of the steps. In, out, in, out. The city is a canyon. The sky above is a ribbon of deepening blue. But down here, the light is reflected, bouncing from wall to wall. It softens the edges of everything. A bicycle leans against a lamppost, its frame rusted, its basket empty. It looks like it has been there for years, a permanent fixture of the street. I turn a corner. The wind picks up slightly, funneling through the narrow passage. It brushes against my face, carrying the scent of baking bread from somewhere unseen. It is a warm, yeasty smell, grounding and familiar. But I do not look for the source. I simply let the aroma pass, a fleeting note in the symphony of the morning. The texture of the ground changes. The large, smooth slabs give way to smaller cobblestones, rounded and uneven. The sound of my walking changes with it. The tap becomes a crunch, a more complex interaction between shoe and stone. I have to pay more attention to my footing, adjusting my balance with each step. This subtle shift in focus deepens the trance. The world shrinks to the next 3 feet of ground. A heavy wooden door stands ajar on the left. Beyond it, a glimpse of a courtyard, dark and green. Ferns spill out of terracotta pots. A fountain trickles somewhere in the gloom. The sound of the water is faint, a delicate percussion that is audible for only a few seconds before I leave it behind. I am moving through a valley of silence. The major boulevards are distant, their noise reduced to a low, oceanic hum that forms a backdrop to the immediate quiet. Here, in the capillaries of the city, time feels suspended. There is only the walk. The rhythm continues. 1 block, 2 blocks. The repetition is soothing. It washes away the need for destination. I could walk like this for hours, just observing the play of light on the stucco, the iron rings tethered to the walls, the heavy studs on the doors. I pause at a corner to let a small delivery truck squeeze past. The driver lifts a hand in a weary wave. I nod. The truck rumbles away, leaving a plume of exhaust that quickly dissipates. Silence returns, heavier than before. I resume the pace. The sun is higher now, cutting deeper into the street. The shadows are shortening, retreating toward the base of the buildings. I walk along the edge of the shade, keeping one shoulder in the cool and one in the warmth. The architecture begins to change subtly. The buildings become taller, more imposing. The stone is darker. I am entering a different district, an older part of the grid. The street straightens, offering a long perspective of converging lines. I fix my eyes on a distant point, a balcony railing catching the light, and walk towards it. It does not seem to get closer. The walk is a state of being, not a means of travel. The rhythmic thud of my heels is the only clock that matters. Eventually, the narrow street opens up. The density of the medieval quarter gives way to the slightly broader, straighter avenue of Via Cavour. The transition is soft. The air feels lighter, less compressed. I stop for a moment to reorient. The stillness of the walk lingers in my limbs. My legs feel heavy, grounded, as if the stone of the street has worked its way into my muscles. I take a deep breath, tasting the dust and the warmth, and look for the unassuming entrance of the Chiostro dello Scalzo. It is easy to miss. A simple door in a long wall. There is no grand piazza here, no dome to mark the spot, just a number and a modest sign. I push the door open. The transition from the street to the cloister is instant. The noise of the city, which had begun to rise on the main avenue, is severed the moment the door clicks shut behind me. I am standing in a small, rectangular courtyard. A colonnade runs around the perimeter, supporting a series of graceful arches. The center is open to the sky, but the ground is paved, clean and bare. The immediate impression is one of silence and colorlessness. This is the realm of the monochrome. The walls under the portico are covered in frescoes, but they are not the vibrant reds and blues of the churches. They are grisailles, paintings executed entirely in shades of gray, sepia, and ochre. I step into the shadow of the colonnade. The air here is cool, trapped by the stone and shielded from the sun. I begin to walk the perimeter, moving counterclockwise. The frescoes tell a story, scenes from the life of the Baptist, painted by Andrea del Sardo and his student. But today, the narrative is secondary to the tone. I stop in front of a panel depicting a baptism. The figures are modeled in light and shadow. They look like statues carved from mist. The artist has used the color of the plaster itself as the midtone, adding dark pigments for the shadows and white lead for the highlights. I lean in closer. The brush strokes are visible, confident, and fluid. The illusion of depth is remarkable. The painted columns in the background of the scene seem to recede into a space that does not exist. I look at the real columns of the cloister. They are made of pietracerina, a gray sandstone. The sun is angling into the courtyard now, casting the shadow of the real columns onto the floor. These shadows stretch out, dark and sharp, reaching toward the painted wall. There is a dialogue happening here between the real shadows and the painted ones. I stand still, observing the intersection. The shadow of a capital falls across the painted robe of a figure. The gray of the stone merges with the gray of the paint. It is a layering of realities. The silence is profound. It is not an empty silence, but a dense one, filled with the weight of 500 years of quiet observation. I can hear the blood rushing in my ears. A pigeon flutters down from the roof, landing in the center of the courtyard. Its claws click against the stone. It coos once, a soft, vibrating sound that amplifies the stillness. I move to the next panel. The scene is crowded with figures, but the lack of color creates a sense of calm. There is no visual noise. The eye is forced to look at form, at volume, at the way drapery hangs from a shoulder. I trace the line of a cloak with my gaze. It falls in heavy, sculptural folds. The light in the courtyard is shifting. As the sun climbs, the line of shadow on the floor retreats. The monochrome shadows I came to see are not just in the paintings, they are the architecture itself. The play of light creates its own grisaille on the floor, a constant, slow-moving performance of grays. I find a spot in the corner of the cloister where a stone bench is built into the wall. I sit down. The stone is cold through the fabric of my trousers. From here, I can see the entire rectangle of the courtyard. The symmetry is soothing. Column, arch, column, arch. The rhythm is visual, a repetition of forms that quiets the mind. I close my eyes for a moment. The afterimage of the gray figures lingers on my retina. I breathe in the smell of the cloister, old plaster, dry stone, and a faint hint of damp earth from the ground beneath. Opening my eyes, I watch a single dust mote floating in a shaft of sunlight. It drifts slowly, caught in a thermal current, rising and falling in the stillness. It shines like a spark of gold against the gray background of the frescoes. The morning has been a study in textures and tones. The veins of the calcite, the rough cobblestones of the long walk, the smooth, painted shadows of the cloister. There has been no need for words, no need for explanations. The sensory experience is enough. I stand up slowly, respecting the quiet of the space. I walk toward the exit, my footsteps soft on the flagstones. I pause at the door, taking one last look at the grisaille figures. They stand in their eternal gray world, waiting for the light to change, waiting for the next shadow to pass over them. I push the door open and step back out onto Via Cavour. The light outside is blindingly bright now, a stark white contrast to the dim sanctuary I have left. The heat of the day has arrived. It presses against my skin, a heavy, warm blanket. I turn south, letting the momentum of the city take me. There is no destination in mind now, only the need to let the morning settle. I find a small cafe a few doors down, the kind with just a counter and a few stools. I do not go in yet. I stand outside, leaning against the warm stucco of the wall, watching the people pass by. The rhythm of the street washes over me. The sound of engines, voices, footsteps. It all blends into a steady, flowing river of sound. I let my eyes unfocus, blurring the movement into streaks of color and light. The day is fully awake, am still holding onto the quiet of the cloister, a small pocket of gray silence carried in the mind. The sun feels good on my face. I close my eyes again, tilting my head back slightly. The orange light filters through my eyelids. The noise of the city seems to drift further away, becoming a hum, then a whisper, then just a vibration in the air. I let the breath out, long and slow, and with it, the last of the morning's effort dissolves into the rising heat.